Belinda and HarperAudio Australia present this unabridged recording of Upon a Starlit Tide, written by Kell and read by Esther Wane. Far out in the sea, the water is as blue as the petals of the most beautiful cornflower, and as clear as the purest glass. Hans Christian Andersen, The Little Mermaid. Part 1. Their world seemed so much wider than her own, for they could skim over the sea in ships and mount up into the lofty peaks high over the clouds, and their lands stretched out in woods and fields farther than the eye could see. There was so much she wanted to know. Hans Christian Andersen, The Little Mermaid. Chapter 1. Wrecked. Clos-Poulet, Bretagne, May 1758. She thought him dead at first. A man, draped lifeless upon a wedge of broken hull, cheek pressed against the timber as tenderly as a lover's, as he rose gently up, gently down, with the exhausted breath of the sea. The storm had raged all night, howling and hurling itself against the shore, rattling the windows so hard that it had taken all of Luce's will not to fling them open and feel its cold breath on her face. Only the chintz drapes, her mother's great pride, had stopped her. Papa had brought the fabric all the way from India, and there was no telling how Ratienne would have reacted had Luce allowed the weather to spoil them. And so she had kept the windows closed, watching the storm as it battered the gardens and orchard and pried at the roof of the dovecote, as though it would rip it free and toss it, rolling and bouncing down the sweep of rain-soaked fields and into the furious waves. It was the kind of weather that stilled the world and sent folk hurrying indoors, that closed shutters and covered mirrors for fear of lightning strikes, that caused ships to fly before it into the harbour at Saint-Malo. One ship, at least, had not been fast enough. Its remains dotted the grey water. Shards of decking, slabs of hull, tangles of rigging. Luce narrowed her eyes against the glare of the early morning sun, skirts held out of the weed and foam. She had seen the sea's victims before, of course, many times. Could not avoid it with the storms that blew in from the northwest, tearing down the Manche, leaving ruined ships and their dead strewn across the beaches of Clos-Poulet like flowers after a wedding feast. Faded petals across the sand. This man's face, however, lacked the telltale pallor of death. And did he cling to the timber? She had seen men who had lashed themselves to ships as they broke apart, only to wash ashore, drowned, their fingers open and empty. But no rope bound this man to his floating sanctuary. Not dead, then. A quick glance down the cove's curved rocky shore. There were folk from Saint-Coulon about. She had seen them as she'd climbed down the steep path from the cliffs. Men in their low boats, and shawled women, heads bowed as, like Luce, they combed the beach for treasure in the storm's wake. Brandy and waxed packets of silk, coins and tea and candles. The men, however, had pushed out into deeper water, sails cutting the grey horizon, while the women had rounded the rocky point separating the cove from the next beach, where, farther along the shore, the path to the village lay. But for a scattering of foam and weed, the beach was empty. Decided, Luce tossed her boots, stockings, and garters to the gold-grey sand and shrugged out of her heavy men's overcoat. She wore it like a shell, that coat, a briny leather casing that hid the soft female truth of her. Her long, dark hair had been tucked safely within its collar. It unravelled around her shoulders as she bent to unlace her woolen caraco, then unbuttoned her breeches, sliding them down her bare legs. A final glance along the beach, and her battered black tricorn joined the motley mound of clothing upon the sand. Clad in her chemise and stays, Luce picked her way to the water's edge. 1, 2, 3 steps, and she was shin-deep. 4, 5, 6...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?